I'm going to do that again because I got time. The funky version. It's Wednesday and it's time for stories. I know, 2 minutes to go yet, but what the heck? We're going to go for it. I actually decided to tell quite a long story today. Well, I say it's quite a long story. It's only 15 minutes long. But I got some really cool pictures. I'll just, they're all folded up. They're all jimbly jumbling in my hat. Whoop. So if I wear it straight, it kind of looks like not a state trooper, but like a park ranger's hat. If I have it low down, there we go. Nah, maybe not. But I got my hat, and my hat is going to contain all of these lovely pictures, which everyone has sent me. And I got some sort of story that's coming out later on. Now, if you're new to this show, and there might be some new people to this show because Kim Whitecamp sent out a huzzah for me. Thank you, Kim. I really appreciate that. What I do is I collect, I'm just going to pull this one out. I collect these pictures. People send me pictures, and you can send them either via my email on my website. My website is diamondscree.com, or you can use the easier web address, which is simonbrooksstoryteller.com, and it'll take you to Diamond Scree. You can send me an email through there and say, how do I get pictures? And I'll send you an email back saying, just attach it to an email and send it to me, and then we'll be all set. Or you can message the pictures to me. This one, I can't remember if I've used this one yet. I was going through my files because I was running out of space on my computer, and I was going through my files and I found this really cool picture, and I was like, well, that's nothing my kids did. So I saved it, and I'm not sure if I used it or not. So I'm going to put it back in amongst all these other ones. And I'm not a magician, so I'm not really sorting out the first thing. And what I do is I fold all the names on the inside because I have all the names of people here, right? And some of them are on really rubbish paper because I'm trying to use up my rubbish paper rather than my expensive paper. And I shuffle them all up, shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And then I put them in this hat, put them in the hat. And then I'll pull them out one by one and make a story up out of it. Oops, there's my headphones. Let's get those out of the way. So how is everyone today? If you haven't sent a picture, and you can still send a picture in now, I'll just use it next week, okay? Does that answer that question? Okay, good, excellent. And you can leave comments. You might not see them pop up on the screen because I have control of that. So, for example, I could say to Andrea, I can hide your thing, but I won't because it's a nice comment, so I'll leave that up there for a little bit. Well, it's gone already. Woo! That was quick. Anyway, you can comment. Love to see comments, love to see hearts and all that kind of stuff. It makes my heart warm in this crazy time that we live in. So anyway, I hope everyone is doing well. I was looking at my hair on a video that I made for the Children's Literacy Foundation. I thought, I have got to get this cut. It was crazy. So my daughter and I gave the main, and then my daughter like tied it up. So how did she do? Did she do well? Did she do? Oh, sorry about the chair. It's a bit squeaky. Did she do well? She tied it up she tied it up the back a bit, but we got it done, and that's what matters. I don't feel like I don't know what. I don't know what. But it's kind of strange and crazy. Oh, I forgot to turn one of my lights on. There we go. This is a real professional show, isn't it? All right, so are you all sitting comfortably? Then I shall begin. My name is Simon Brooks, and I'm a storyteller. It's 101, and I'm going to tell you some stories today that I hope you like. I'm going to tell you one story today that I hope you like, which is a folk and fairy tale. And then there's another story that I know you'll like because you kids have sent in all the artwork for it, and I'll be using that later on. But the first story I'm going to tell you, when I was telling it the other day into a camera, it really resonated with me a lot more than these kind of stories normally do. I mean, they do when I'm learning them, and it's like when I tell them. Sometimes when you got a live audience, it really kind of like, wow, it really has a strong vibe to it. And I haven't had that feeling since I started recording. Funny that. But this story really rang loud bells for me. So I'm going to share it with you guys today, and I hope you like it. You see, it's a story from Wales, and it's a really, 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 really so old. It's one of those stories that comes from like centuries ago. And some of you might recognize it as being a story that the Greeks tell. But I like this version a lot better. You see, King Mark, spelled C-H, I think that was the right way around for you guys, spelled C-H because they don't have a K in the Welsh alphabet. Did you know that? It's true. King Mark had a small problem. He had large ears. Now, he didn't have ears that were like Prince Charles's ears, you know, just like really good for hearing and stuff. But no, he had the ears of a donkey. That's right, he had ears of a donkey. They went up, they went down, they were rough and brown on the outside, but on the inside, oh, they were so smooth. When he was a baby, he could just pull his ear and go, it was just like a blankie for him. But he grew older and older, and he realized that he was the only one with ears like that, and so he grew his hair long. And most of the people that knew about his ears had died off. They'd all got old and died. So he and one other person were the only people that knew about his donkey's ears. The other person? Oh, well, the other person, that was his barber. Because, you know, you get long hair. I mean, I don't know that because last week was the longest it got. Oops, sorry. You have to get your dead ends cut off, right? And, you know, hair splits and all that kind of stuff, or it just gets too long and it just gets in the way. And so he'd obviously have to go and have his split ends cut off, King Mark would. And so he'd go to Babak the barber. And every time he saw Babak the barber, King Mark would say, "Never tell a living soul, or so much the worse for you." And Babak the barber would be like, "No, I swear I'll tell no one. I promise I'll tell no one about your ears, your majesty." And very carefully he would trim his hair. Now, King Mark, once he had his hair cut, he would put his dude rag on, his bandana. He'd put it over his hair and press it down over his ears so his ears wouldn't pop out. And then he'd carefully put his crown back on, and that was the way it was. But King Mark was a really good leader. He really was. He was well loved by his people. He was one of these rulers that treated everyone equally. The tall from the not so tall, the wide from the skinny, the rich from the poor, the farmers and the laborers, the same as the carpenters and the artisans. He treated everyone the same, with justice and equality. And because of that, the people loved him. They absolutely adored him. Now, because he liked to look after his people and take care of his people, he knew that some people were a lot poorer than others and they couldn't always feed themselves over the winter. And so what he would do, he would have a big feast in the middle of winter, Midsummer's Eve. And when he had this feast, he would invite everyone from his kingdom to come in and party, right? And so everyone would be invited. If there were people who were really hurting for food, he would give them some odd jobs around the castle and then give them a cartload of food to take home with them to help them get through the winter. He was an amazing leader, an amazing king. Now, at this big, great celebration, this great festival, he would have musicians, he would have fire jugglers, he would have storytellers, of course, there'd be dancers. But the music was his thing. Music was really his thing. And there was this one musician that he loved who had a small band. And his name was Enoch. That's E-N-O-C-H. Because, again, there's no K in the Welsh alphabet. Enoch. And Enoch was a fiddle... no, he wasn't a fiddle player. I lie. He was a flute player. and he had a reed flute that he would play, right? And he was really, really good at it, way better than I'm at my penny whistle. He knew hundreds of tunes, not just the slow, sad ones that you might cry into someone's shoulder about, but like the lively ones that everyone would be jumping up and dancing. You know, had a bit of an ego, though. Do you know what I mean by an ego? You know, so there are some people that think they're better than anybody else, you know, and they say, oh, I've done this, that, and the other, and everything, blah, 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 blah. And then they try to get out of the room and, oh, their head has got so big, they can't get out of the room. Or they're just like that all the time and they can't get in anywhere, right? And that's why they have those sliding doors on grocery stores and banks, so that people with like big heads too big for them, their big egos, they can get in and out okay, because, you know, that's just the way. Anyway, he had a bit of an ego problem. And whenever he arrived somewhere to perform, he always wanted the sun behind him, either rising or setting. So when he came into the room, whoa, the light would be streaming around him. He loved that. He thought it looked so cool. And then his fiddle player, she was an excellent fiddle player too. She was like the best in the whole of Wales and Scotland. And she come in behind him playing the fiddle. And then the bodhrán player, he was a bit like me, he was a bit goofy, and he's like he'd come in behind all of them, right? And they would play their music. This was a big deal, this party. Anyway, there was Babuk the barber, and he had that secret about telling people about King Mark's ears. Now, secrets have a way with us. They start off really small, and they start to get bigger and bigger. I mean, I'm talking about real secrets here. You know, not the ones that you tell to your friends. Oh, it's okay. They won't mind me telling you, but it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. That's not a secret. You've told someone. This is a kind of secret that you can't tell anyone. Or Babuk would he didn't want to lose his head. Right? And the secret got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then he couldn't eat and he couldn't sleep. And so he went to see the doctor. The doctor was Scottish. All the best doctors were Scottish back in those days. Oh, I know what's wrong with you, he said after like checking Babuk out. Hey, you got a secret. I have the same problem myself sometimes because, well, you know, there's a lot of people that come to see me, and there's a lot of things I can't say to other people about the people that I've seen. I mean, it would be terrible, some of the things I see, and if I was to share those things. Just tell me the secret and you'll be all right. Then you'll feel a lot better. But I can't. If I tell my secret, then I'll lose my head, and I don't want to lose my head. I like my head very firmly placed on my neck and my shoulders. Thank you very much. Oh, then what you'll do is you have to do what I do. Now, what I do is I find a nice quiet place, far from everyone, and I'll dig a hole in the ground, and I'll whisper my secret into the ground, and then I'll cover up the hole. And you've told your secret, you haven't told it to a living soul, which you did mention was something you didn't want to do. But it's there. It's off your chest, as it were. It's gone. You've told it, and you'll be fine. Babuk thanked the doctor, gave him his sixpence, and then went out of the city walls. And he found the river, and he followed the river. And the river made this huge oxbow. You know what an oxbow is, right? It's like the river comes along this way, and then it comes up like this, and then it comes back down. Big oxbow, and sometimes those bits get closer and closer, and then boom, the river becomes straight, and there's an oxbow, right? There's a little pool right there. Social sciences. Oh, maybe it's not social sciences. It's geography or something. I don't know. I'm not smart. Anyway, so he went down to this big curve in the river, because there were reeds that grew up in that part of the river, and he knew that the soil was soft, and because it was getting towards winter, he knew that it wouldn't have frozen and it would be okay. And so he dug his hole, and then he whispered into the hole, "King Mark's got donkey's ears." King Mark's got donkey's ears. 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 He checked around just in case there was somebody watching, but nobody was. King Mark's got donkey's ears. He shouted it louder and louder. And then, with his heart lifted, with that secret not told to a living soul, he buried the hole, covered the hole up with the earth, and made his way back to the town. And he felt so much better. In the weeks passed, the snow came, winter came, mid-winter's eve came. The party had already started. This hall in which it was held was massive. There were 2 huge fireplaces at either end of the great hall. I mean, I'm not talking about, it's quite big. I'm talking about you could walk with your upright, standing up, you could walk straight into the fireplace and the mantelpiece would be still above your head, right? And 5 men and 5 women could walk into this fireplace. Actually, 10 non-gendered people could walk into place, whatever. Anyway, it was amazing. The 2 of these huge fireplaces with these massive fires burning. And there were these gorgeous tapestries that hung from the walls. There were table after table, bench after bench piled up with food. Fire jugglers were already performing their arts and their crafts. It was amazing. Now, Enoch, he was on his way to this thing, and the sun was still up in the sky. It was too high, and he knew that if he kept going at the speed at which they were going, traveling, then they would get there too early, and the sun would still be too high in the sky when he wanted it to be setting behind him. So when he walked in, he'd be like, "I am here." Yeah, I know, it's a bit sad, but they didn't have lights like we do these days. They have to have the sun to do these things. And so they stopped at this bend in the river. And the fiddle player, she had her fiddle out already, and she's like practicing and playing. And the Baron player got his drum out, and he was playing almost as good as me. He's playing his drum, right? And then Enoch reached into his pocket and pulled out the pouch and took out his flute and played it, but there was a split in it. And it made a horrible sound. And he's like, "What am I going to do?" And the fiddle player, like I said, she was a smart woman. She says, "There are reeds all around here. Just make an extra one. Make 2. One to play, and then if that splits, then you have another one as a backup." And so they looked at the sky, and Enoch cut 2 reeds, and he took a section of those reeds that were the perfect size, the perfect shape, and he began to put the holes in them. He carved the mouthpiece. But by the time he'd finished making the 2, he didn't have time to test them, to play them, to make sure that they were okay. So he shoved both of them in his wallet and very carefully, gingerly put them in his pocket, in his jacket. And they made their way to the castle. There was laughing and joking when the doors opened and Enoch walked in, the sun perfectly setting behind him. King Mark saw him. He stood up at the high table. "Oh, Enoch's here! Everyone, listen to the beautiful music that he will play." Well, the fiddle player, she took out the fiddle and started. And the Baron player got his drum out. And then Enoch put that flute to his mouth and blew. But instead of the most beautiful notes coming out from the flute, the words, "King Mark's got donkey's ears," came out. Enoch stopped the fiddle player. The drum, doing. What was that? King Mark looked at Enoch. "What did you say?" "Your Majesty, I never said anything. I swear. It is this pipe. Look." And he put it back to his lips and played, "King Mark's got donkey's ears." "Let me see that." Very carefully and gingerly, Babak went up to the king and he snatched the flute from him and he blew into it himself. "King Mark's got donkeys." He smashed it in half and threw it on the ground and stamped on it. "You will lose your head for this." "Oh, Your Majesty, it's not my fault, I swear. I swear it's a brand new reed flute that I made down by the river." "I don't care where you made it. But I swear there's no magic in it or anything. I broke." And the other 2 musicians said, "Yes, it's true. His old one split and he made 2. "There's 2? Give me the other one." Again, Enoch handed up the pipe to the king. And the king played up. "King Mark!" Babak. He turned to the warriors on either side of him. "Find Babak and bring him here." The silence in the hall was frightening. No one was eating, no one was drinking, no one was laughing. Babbitt was dragged by his arms back to the high table where the king sat. "You shall pay dearly for this. I told you not to tell a living soul." "But I never told a living soul. I swear. I went to see the doctor, but I never told him. He'll tell you." The doctor stood up and nodded. "I don't care. I told you not to tell a living soul, but I never did. I went to this bend in the river just outside of the city walls, and I dug a hole in the ground, and I shouted next to the reeds." "You will both lose your heads over this." But then someone in the crowd, in this huge hall, called out, "King Mark, show us your ears." Now, this hall was massive, and of course, the sounds were bouncing all over the place. King Mark looked around, but he had no idea who had said it. "Who said that? Who said that?" And then someone else, "King Mark, show us your ears." And another, "King Mark, show us your ears. King Mark, show us your ears. What is going on?" Until the whole place was, "Show us your ears. Show us your ears." There was nothing King Mark could do. He took his crown from his head and sat it down on the table in front of him. He reached behind and undid the bandana, his dude rag, and took it off and laid that down on the table. And then he shoved his fingers into his hair behind his ears and pulled his ears out. And there they were, nice and fluffy and brown on the outside and nice and soft and silky on the inside. And somebody started to clap and somebody else started to cheer until everyone in the hall was clapping and cheering. And people looked at each other and smiled. And their cheering got louder and louder. And King Mark at first had no idea what was going on. And then, as they say, the penny dropped. He realized that these people didn't care about his ears. What they cared about was the fact that he was a really great king, a really wonderful human being who treated everyone well, who treated everyone equally. As far as his people were concerned, he could have had a nose 4 feet long, held up by a stick with a little wheel on the bottom so he could wheel it around. And nobody would have cared. They would have loved him still because it's what's inside that matters. It's what you do, it's what you say, it's how you feel that matters. And so, King Mark, he didn't wear a dude rag and the bandana was gone. And he had a new crown made. It was one that still sat down, but it had 2 holes in it. And he could pull his ears out. And from that day until the rest of his days, he wore his ears proudly. That's the story of King Mark and the donkey's ears. The end. So anyway, there's that similarity that you'll recognize from King Midas. But King Midas, he was a ding-dong. He was not very smart. He really wasn't. But King Mark, he was a smart guy. Nobody knows how he got his donkey's ears. They just appeared. Maybe his parents said something wrong and decided to give their son. So I've got some comments here. "Oh no, I wouldn't want to be Baba to lose his head either." Nobody would. Nobody would. I'm glad the lot. Yeah, I like laughing. So I have a friend, colleague of mine, who he does a lot of laughter yoga, and I've watched him doing laughter yoga, and it's absolutely brilliant. And one of the things that I totally get a kick out of is watching his boss, not his boss, the person that taught him how to do yoga, laughter yoga. See, I can't do 2 things at once. It's very hard. My brain is very small. I'm a bear of very little brain. And got a message from my mum. There she is, right there. Hi, Mum. Hope you're doing well. What did Sarah say? Did you ever cross paths with a musician named? No, I didn't. Oh, that sounds good. Playing the marimba. One of those things, yeah. No, I haven't, but I'd like to see that. That would be really cool. I can't remember what I was going to say now. It doesn't matter, because what time is it now? It's the time that the kids have been waiting for. That's right. It's the time that the kids have been waiting for. They want their pictures turned into stories. They don't care about King Mark and his ears, do they? They care about these things in here. Close my eyes, do a bit more shuffly waffling. And I'll pull out this one because I like the feel of this paper. There's two in there. Because I like the feel of the paper. This is my good paper. And it was quite by the luck of everything. Once upon a time, a long time ago, Finley the architect. Yeah! I love her pictures. They're great. She comes from Charlestown, South Carolina. Finley. Once upon a time, in a tall, Finley, I gotta say, your artwork is awesome. There was a great tower. That is so amazing. It looks like acrylic, which is easier than oil, but it's still not easy. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was this huge tower. And inside this tower, there was Felicity. Felicity from Scotland. This is your picture. Inside this tower, there lived this beautiful person right here. And we'll just call her Felicity because, you know, why not? And Felicity loved gardening. She would come out of her tower. I mean, it wasn't just a tower. It wasn't like teeny tiny rooms. It was like huge, right? I mean, this thing, you can't see how big this is, but each of those blocks is probably, I don't know, 50 feet across. So the whole thing is like 150 feet. So that's twice the size of my garage. You know, I mean, those are big rooms in there, right? And not Finley, Felicity would come out and she would plant these wonderful gardens because it's nice having green, but it's even nicer when you have all these wonderful, wonderful colors. And Felicity, she loved dancing in around her flowers, planting flowers everywhere, and she'd make up songs and sing songs. And one day, oh, this is another one by Felicity. I got 3 from Felicity, so I'm only going to do 2 of hers, and I'm saving one for next week. Is that okay, Felicity? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that, Felicity? I hope so. When she was dancing and skipping, she saw Pigman. Now, Pigman was a very jolly pig who wore a nice brown bowler hat, and he liked to go to Felicity to get flowers to put in his hat because he loved wearing flowers in his hat. And I mean, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't want to put flowers in their hat? Apart from me. Anyway, so they decided to go off on an adventure. Off they went. And to their amazing surprise, they saw a snowman. Becca, you were 4 when you did this. I think you're a bit older now. Becca's a grown-up now, but we won't say that. And Becca, they came across Finley and Felicity. They found this snowman in the depths of the forest where it was still cold because winter hadn't quite finished up where they lived just yet. And there were places deep, deep in the forest where there was snow. And when Felicity saw the snowman was dreaming. It woke up and told her this. The snowman was dreaming of spring. That's what all those flowers are that are popping out of its mind. I'm daydreaming of spring. That's what my mind looks like on a busy day. So the snowman was, but Felicity really cared about, and Finley also cared about this snowman, and they knew the snowman would melt. And so what they did was they decided that they would go back to the castle. They told the snow person to stay right where they were, and they did. And the snowman did. And they went back to the castle and they talked to the groundsman. And the groundsman said, you know what we can do? We can get some blocks of ice from the pond. There was a big pond in the middle of the trees too. And that too was still frozen. I mean, the ice got really, really thick. And so they went out onto the pond and they started to cut these huge cubes of ice. And then they took these huge cubes of ice down into the basement, into the cellar of this tower. Now, the cellar was pretty spanky. They had an addition built underneath, and it was like this big curved roof, kind of like the Cavern in Liverpool, if you've ever been there. And there was a dance floor there, and there was a stage for putting on productions and all the rest of it, and where the musicians could stand so they could play their musical instruments, and there was a room off of that, and it wasn't going to be used for the rest of the year until the following winter. It was used as a storeroom for all the summer clothes, and all the summer stuff had come out, and the badminton courts had been set up, and so they put these blocks of ice into that room, and then they went back with a few other blocks of ice on a cart, and they got the snowman that was still daydreaming of spring, and they put this snowman on the cart very carefully. It took like 5 or 6 warriors to do this. They got it on the cart, and they very carefully and very quickly made it all the way back to the castle, to the tower. And then they got it down into the cellars, and they got it into this special room. And that snowman was going to be all set for the rest of the year. And, you know, like most of us, if we don't eat, if it doesn't snow on us, then, you know, the snowman was going to get a little thinner. But the snowman would still be there the following winter, and they could take it back out into the woods where it would be safe. And they thought that was a really cool idea. So they got that done. And then there's always an and then. And then my friend Liam sent me this morning. Can you see that? There's a dragon. And on the back of the dragon right there, there's a knight. And actually, last night I was reading about dragons. My friend Tony Toledo sent me a coloring book about dragons. He's like that. He's a good friend. And so there was this knight sitting on top of this dragon. And it looks like, if you look carefully there, looks like he's battling with this dragon. See, that sword is going in. There's a big cut. I like dragons. Liam, you can't kill dragons. But this dragon was a bad dragon. He was a baddie. And he'd been burning down parts of the forest. In fact, you know what he was doing? You know what this dragon was doing? He was looking for that snow person. And the dragon was going to melt the snow person. So now the snow person was safely locked away. Not locked away. They would go and visit him and hang out with the snow person. They play cards and Scrabble and any other game that might have been invented by then. And the knight, he was the frost knight, and he had found the dragon and decided to slaughter the dragon. So sadly, the dragon was slaughtered. There was no more dragon. There's one more. There's 2 more, actually. There's this one, but then there's one more in the hat. And so they had a big celebration. And afterwards, they went outside. And Renee in Sherborne, Massachusetts, did this. Some of my storytelling friends in the Massachusetts area, New Hampshire area, will know all about Renee. She is a budding storyteller. She is 12 years of age, and she did this. I can't get close enough to show you the details because the camera won't let me. But this is a pretty stunning picture. And they sat on the edge of the hills and they watched the water pouring down into the lakes below. And everybody, when they heard about the dragon, because I know what this picture is because I showed it to you at the beginning, everybody got together and they had a big old party. So there was all of the common, I don't want to call them commoners, but all the people of the village and the town were there. And then there was Felicity was there, and Pigman was there, and also, all right, that's Felicity again. There's Felicity. I think that's all it was, wasn't it? There was Pigman and Felicity. Oh no, and who else was it? Finley as well, the architect. She always sends me pictures of buildings, but that is a really cool painting. That is amazing. I'd be happy if I did something like that. And they all lived, come on, say it with me, they all lived a very long time ago. I bet Liam did work hard on that. I just got a message from Liam's mom saying, Liam worked hard on that. I know, wasn't that a great picture? Liam, you're a rock star. I love your stuff. Keep sending it in. I have to say that I did keep your dragon from, was it last week or the week before, the black one, the rock dragon. I love that picture. I might, if it's okay with you, Liam, I might use it on my next advert for Stories with Wednesday, and I'll put some text over it. Is that okay? If you say no, then that's all right. I won't. I'll just use my stuff. But I really like that dragon. And then this is Liam's other dragon, which is really cool. So I'm glad you had some fun with that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed. Would you like another story? I feel that it's only like half an hour. I should do another story. But what story shall I tell? Any suggestions? While I'm thinking about another story? Oh, I know what I can tell. No, I won't. You know what? Let's call it a day. All right, and we'll tell more stories next Wednesday at 1. Oh, it is okay, said Stephanie. All right, excellent. All right, so I can use that picture. So there is a delay on this. Or maybe I thought someone was popping up a quick story. So we're going to say goodbye for now, unless a story pops up and it's like, yeah, I'll tell that. And I'll save any pictures that get sent right now or later on this afternoon, and we'll save those for next week. I've already got one from, oh my gosh, names are not sticking with me. Felicity. So one of your pictures will be used tomorrow, next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Okay. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. If you want to help support what I do, which would be phenomenal, but you don't have to, please join me on Patreon, or you can send me a tip at paypal.me/Simon the Storyteller. I hope you've enjoyed the story today and the stories today, and enjoyed what I did with the kids' artwork. We got one more comment, which I can't see because it's covered up. Did somebody send me a story? Because I kind of really want to tell another story. What is it? Oh, no, thank you once again. All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I really appreciate it. Look after yourselves. Take care of each other and those around you and near you. And just look after each other. Okay? Thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week. Bye.